No, I thought your mama was gonna be all right. Be happy. Do good. But she got tore up around here. She just up and quit. She just stopped trying. I know. I could have done better. But you got to decide. You want to be somebody or not?
Sometime later.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? I'm JD Vance, and I approve this message because whatever they call us, we will put America first.
You're tall, but I'm standing in front of you.
It's a podcast.
Welcome to You're Tall, But I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends circling the drain of academia examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
I'm Ethan.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. It's I think last episode we talked about like the good vibes. Obviously, vibes have a half-life. I think there's maybe a question right now about whether the vibes have reached like a meltdown where like it's got like that you can't. The Democrats are going to run off vibes. Like the liberals are going to run off vibes through the end of this election. I don't know that those will sustain everybody else, but certainly the vibes have been complicated. We talked about this before, Devin, in a political campaign, you tend to have like policy, and that matters. And you were like, we need to get to policy, and I'm like, no, the moment we start thinking about policy, like that's the end of the good vibes, because there's nothing good is gonna come when we like have to confront the reality of the 2024 election.
Yeah,
Where
I mean,
am I
this
going
is it,
with
right?
this?
We're pitting in this election, right? Two vibes against each other, right? We're waltzing with Waltz now, or whatever that guy's name is, and he's like the call them weird guy, right? He calls the right weird, and so that's basically the campaign, it seems, right?
Yes.
We're not going to talk about any policies.
Yep.
And
so
then,
we beat on
they're
votes
probably
against the
gonna
current.
win. It's
Forward
going to
back
feel good
ceaselessly
for,
into the past.
It's going to feel good for 5 minutes, and I do think it's meaningful to, to kill off MAGA to the extent you can. And then, like, the Democrats are just going to be like, anyway, time to, oh, wait, it turns out the budget's terrible. We're not going to do anything. And in, like, 4 years, there'll be a right-wing reaction to that. and then we'll be caught, we'll just be caught in this, like, endless cycle. It's like two kids fighting over like a fudgesicle that fell in the ground, and
Right.
we're just sort of like the parents that like pass the fudgesicle back and forth. It's a terrible metaphor for a terrible political reality.
I don't appreciate your cynicism, because here's why I'm going to be riding high into the election, because if Harris Walz wins, I think we'll finally achieve my singular policy issue. I am a single issue voter, and that is all I want from this country is a student loan like debt forgiveness program for Pell Grant recipients who start a business that operates for 3 years in disadvantaged communities. And I think we may finally achieve that dream if Kamala does win. So,
man, how much do you think it's going to cost? Like, how much are they going to pay the consulting firm that's going to come up with the algorithm to determine whether or not a community is disadvantaged? And is that number going to be more than it would cost just to forgive 100% of the loans of the Pell Grant recipients?
Yes.
But enough about coconuts, enough about walls. We're here to talk about, maybe the unsung hero of this election. And I'm not talking about the guy that was a few millimeters off.
Whatever happened to that whole story? Anyways.
Well, because, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But I'm talking, of course, about Mr. JD Vance. And what's funny about him is it seems that like both sides of the campaign are against him at this point, right?
Well, because again, it's an entirely vibes-based campaign, and he has the most like gross, disgusting vibes possible. So
yeah,
what do they expect?
And the Trump campaign's position seems to be like, yeah, that was we fucked up with that pick, but it doesn't matter. Seems to be the argument. And of course, before JD Vance was like a Trump toady and a guy that like really wants to know when every woman has last had her period, he was a darling, not of the MAGA right wing, but of the liberal elite. Right?
Yes.
When he publishes his book, Hillbilly Elegy, in 2016. And we are not going to talk about that because that would involve reading, which is hard and takes time.
If it was possible, we're going to talk about something even more boring than that.
That's right. We're talking about the Hillbilly Elegy film from 2020, the Netflix production directed by alleged war criminal Ron Howard. And we'll be talking about not just this film, but about its depiction of Appalachia, its idea of what Appalachia is. And for that, we're joined by two very special guests, one of whom you've just heard, Dr. Kenton Butcher, a
Hello.
good friend of mine and a professor at Bucknell University. Kenton, do you want to say hi?
Hi, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
And then, of course, what has to now be our most repeat guest, Catie Denham. Catie, say hi.
Hi.
She's always available. He's got the good scheduling. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into this movie to the extent there is a movie to be gotten into. But, obviously this movie and the book it's based on and all the discourse around this movie, right? It's not so much about Appalachia as it's about some kind of mainstream liberal idea of what Appalachia is. So I thought maybe before we get into the film, we could talk a little bit about, especially our guests, what our relationship to Appalachia is, what our understanding is of it, what even is it, and then we can kind of get into what this film is saying Appalachia is, and why that message was so resonant to the liberal elite capitalist class, right? So I'll start, and my answer is none, and I don't know. Who wants to go next?
Well, how can we follow that?
Yeah. Wow.
Ethan, what about you?
I mean, so I grew up, and I think this is very important. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and so very distinct from Appalachia. That's about that. And then I married someone from Appalachia. So, Catie, what about you?
Well, okay.
She's gonna say that she's not from Appalachia, but
I will say, like, if you want to like be very technical about it, if you look at like the Appalachia region and where it spans, my county very strategically has been like cut around. And there are a lot of like different reasons for that. But I would say, since my family is from like Lewis County and like Harlan, Kentucky, I would say that I understand and am from Appalachia, even though growing up, I was taught that it was Appalachia. So
Really?
there's a great story that Catie has. Do you want to share the story, Catie, about Appalachia versus Appalachia?
you you can share, because I feel like I was more embarrassed and you were more upset. Like you were more angry.
There was this Teach for America dude who had been doing like Teach for America Kentucky. I don't know what it was
Teach for
essentially.
America Appalachia.
Okay, and he was not from the area, but like you called it Appalachia, and he's like, that's wrong. You don't like you should, that's you can't do that. It's like you're from like where was he from? He was from like California. It's like
Yeah.
maybe fuck you.
He was very aggressive about it. And I was like, oh my dude. It's like my man. I was like, my family is from Harlan. Like
he wouldn't know what that means. You think he would know what that meant? Anyways.
I was just like quite taken aback because I was like, okay.
Yeah.
What I was like, and probably the funny thing is that like probably the university that they did, this is actually quite funny. The university that they probably did all of like their like Teach for America things has a bust of my grandfather, which is
yeah.
like, you don't know what it is. I'm like,
you should have beat him to death with that bust. But if you like, but again, if you had to compare, like in terms of the bona fides of Appalachia, if you were to compare, say, like Mason County to, let's say, Middletown, Ohio, which do you feel is more Appalachia?
Like based on the movie?
Don't base anything ever on the movie.
That's like really hard because we I think before this, like we talked about the economics, right? Like that was a big distinction because Mason County wasn't included, is because their economy wasn't from coal mining. Like that was a huge part of the reason why Mason County was left out. Because the economy around like in Mason County was like offshoots of the coal mining economy. However, there was a lot more diversity in the economy, so it wasn't wholly dependent on it. And Devin, you've been to Maysville. You like it's you can see that it's like the bustling town. It's a little bit different than what you might come across in like Eastern Kentucky. So I think that like it's valid that it is not part of it in terms of if you look at like the economic diversity. However, I would say culturally, Mason County is much more related to Appalachia than it is to Northern Kentucky.
Just
Yes.
quick clarifying question, Catie, before we go over to Kenton. Are you aware of like what percentage of the Mason County economy comes from calculator sales?
That
Because it seems like that's a very significant part of the Appalachian economy based on this film.
well, here's the funny thing though, is that like Ethan and I were talking about this, and I do like I remember buying my own like T984 calculator. And I think about I don't know if there was one thing in that movie that I was like, oh yeah, that feels like me.
You should have written a book. You should have written a book.
Yep. No. I mean, we all remember, getting our calculator and then being like, oh God, if I fucking lose this, I'm fucked.
Yep.
If only I had Amy Chua as a professor.
Yeah. So we've already dug deeper into the idea of what Appalachia is than I think anyone involved in this film. But Kenton, what is your relationship to Appalachia?
I have so many thoughts running around my head. The conversation that you were just talking about, Catie, with the person who said like got on you for pronouncing Appalachia wrong. I feel like that kind of encapsulates like my relationship with Appalachia. Because like when people would come in like kind of talk down to you with that like paternalistic side of things, that like antagonism I really kind of understand. And I always thought I really hated like I don't know, like intellectual types because of that. But also like when I'm in the region and I'm like, oh my God, you guys like really make tragic political decisions. So like there's always that kind of tension for me. Like that's kind of what Appalachia is for me. It's this like bundle of contradictions that I don't know how to get out of. The other thing I'll say is like my own just experience is and has been of people thinking of the region as monolithically white. And not just white, but like I call it like an ain't quite right whiteness. Like it's like this, you're kind of white, but you're kind of like toothless bumpkin, drink moonshine out of a jug with 3 X's on it, like that kind of image. And I'm not like here to, I don't care if that like hurts people's feelings. That's not really what I care about. But like what happens in that is that huge groups of people get completely erased behind that image. And I think that JD Vance, everybody, when he wrote the book with the movie and everything, people are saying, oh, well, he's shining a light on Appalachia or Appalachia. I say Appalachia. But so he's still trading in those same stereotypes. He's participating in a discourse about the region that has been persistent for hundreds of years. And so like that's kind of my like intellectual side of things, but really it's just like where I grew up in rural Southeast Ohio, just across the border from West Virginia. So yeah, that's kind of was my experience. I grew up, you know, we got the first day of deer hunting season off of school because nobody would show up, like that kind of thing. Just very rural. And it wasn't just this pit of hell that JD Vance like presents it at. You know?
It's really funny because Kenton and I didn't grow up far from each other, didn't we?
Yeah,
No,
close.
like it's like within an hour and a half.
Most definitely.
But you also didn't write a book. So
I didn't. Oh, also, but I will say the calculator, I wasn't sure if this was actually going to come up. I know we were joking about it, Devin, but I'm glad it did.
Oh, it's gonna.
Because I did the same thing. I took whatever class you had to use it for, calc or something like that.
Yeah,
and I
something like that.
We had to like it was the only AP class my high school offered, and I took the AP exam and failed it, so I didn't get any credit.
Yeah.
But we had these calculators, and somebody programmed a game on there called HickQuest.
Yep.
Did you have HickQuest?
Oh, did not have that one.
HickQuest was you go around to these different little towns around, and you had to go and get your blood alcohol content to 100%. That was the whole point of the game. And you'd go and you'd get in like fights, and then you'd have to go, like up your power by like drinking until your blood alcohol content got to 100%.
Okay, they should have, instead of making the Hillbilly Elegy movie, they should have just done an adaptation of HickQuest.
That would have been phenomenal.
Like you know, Steven Spielberg presents HickQuest.
Yeah, nobody. That's going to be the book that I write. Nobody steal that idea. Delete that from the web.
TM.
Yeah.
Oh.
So to get, we'll start to get into this movie a little bit maybe, but I think, you know, what all of you've been talking about speaks to this question of sort of why this movie was made and why this book was popular, right? Because ostensibly this is like the book is a memoir and the film is basically just like a filmed memoir. I don't even know what else to call it because it's not even really like a biopic. It doesn't have like the beats of a biopic. It's just sort of like guy remembering his childhood movie, right? And the big question is like, why should we care, right? JD Vance is not an interesting person, especially at this time. It's not like he's the couch fucking vice presidential candidate yet, right? And the argument seems to be the reason we should care about this story is that it is representative of this region, right? That we are seeing the essence of this region, and specifically why it was so popular when the book came out in 2016, right? Is this was supposed to explain to liberals why rural whites were voting for Trump, right? And it definitely had nothing to do with anything Hillary Clinton was doing or not doing in terms of her campaign, right? But it was, there is like there is a pathology at work, right? That we can sort of understand, and then we're being good liberals for understanding it, but then we're also not, we're off the hook for it as well, because it's sort of like, these people are corrupt in some way. And as you were saying, Kenton, whether that's true or not for anybody, it completely erases any diversity that the region could possibly have. Any and
like those stereotypes do political work, and like I'm interested in what political work do these stereotypes do.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So maybe we could just like briefly talk about what happens in this movie, because not much happens.
Three sentences
is telling
max.
me this film is presented in a non-linear narrative.
Why is the memoir like that? Like, why did they do
no
this?
idea.
I don't know.
I think it's partially because they didn't want to have to cast anybody for like the Middle Ages, so they just wanted to be able to alternate back and forth between adult JD Vance and child JD Vance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie is about a guy remembering and going to a job interview. That's it. Nothing else happens.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's the present timeline, right? Is like JD Vance is at Harvard or no Yale, and he like doesn't know how the silverware works,
Ugh.
and he says syrup weird, which it's also like, what the fuck's wrong with his wife that he's just he? It's like, have you never heard of accents before? You're like you're Indian American, like.
Yeah.
People say words like there's like a 10-minute diatribe about how he says syrup. It's like
the other thing that I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Devin.
No, go
Something
ahead.
just popped in my head. Can I say it before I forget? So it's at the beginning, near the beginning, and he's around like the table with his potential like job people or whatever. I'm clearly a very educated person. Potential job people. And so somebody's like, "Oh yeah, what's it like over there with all those hillbillies?" And he's like, "That is not a term that we like to use." I was like, "What the fuck?" He was like so offended. I was like, "What?" I did not remember that at all for the first time I saw the movie, but I was just like, "What the hell?" I've never seen or heard anybody get upset about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up because I remember watching it like, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh boy, stop.
Yeah. Like this is what I imagine somebody would feel if they used the term. Like I don't know. It was just really strange.
Yeah, and that's kind of a microcosm for the movie in general, I think, because the movie has no ability to generate any kind of narrative tension or stakes
At
but it
all.
will like normal things will happen and then the film just like tells you it's important, right? Like sometimes you go to a fancy dinner and you're like not sure which fork to use and it doesn't matter, right? Like it's like whatever, but it's like the guy is like in the back and it's like this is like fucking like SNL movie level humor at best, like of just like, oh man, oh it's confusing. Like
There's more than one fork. I don't know what to do. Like, ridiculous.
yeah, as this guy's becoming one of the most powerful people in the country, also, right? Like,
Yeah, it's like it's trying so hard to make sure you know he's normal, quote unquote. Like a normal person wouldn't have more than two forks on the table.
oh yeah, because the other thing with this is the fucking fried bologna sandwich, right? Like he goes back home at one point and like his sister gives him a fried bologna sandwich and he's like, oh, you can't get these back at Yale? And it's like, yes, you can, motherfucker. Go to the store, buy some bologna and fry it. Like what you mean is you don't have like a woman who's just like anticipating your needs and giving you a fried bologna sandwich that you didn't ask for.
Yeah. Like if you try to go somewhere and order a fried bologna sandwich back home, they'll kick you out. Nobody sells that shit, dude.
May I read to you from Hillbilly Elegy?
Absolutely. Interject with these whenever you see fit.
I mostly won't, but I want to relay the psychological trauma that I had in reading through some of this text in preparation for the game we'll have later. So I need to share this with. I'll just like share some of these with you all, because one thing that they just like threw in there in the movie, and I guess it's also in the book, is he keeps calling his wife his spirit guide, which was just a little strange, to say the least. But that's what. So this is the scene from the book. He's saying, immediately thereafter, I looked down at the place setting and observed an absurd number of instruments. 9 utensils. Why, I wondered, did I need 3 spoons? Why were there multiple butter knives? Then I recalled a scene from a movie and realized there was some social convention surrounding the placement and size of the cutlery. I excused myself to the restroom and called my spirit guide. What do I do with these damned forks? I don't want to make a fool of myself. Armed with Usha's reply, go from outside to inside. Don't use the same utensil for separate dishes. Oh, and use that fat spoon for soup. I returned to dinner, ready to dazzle my future employers. And then, let me just add one more sentence that goes after that. The rest of the evening was uneventful. So, cool.
I like to imagine everybody around the dinner table just being confused about why he got up and ran off. Like if he just like used one of the
they
forks,
they could like hear him from the bathroom, like they're trying to eat it. You can just hear like, wait, what? Which spoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, my
then
God,
he comes
really
back
panicked.
and Barry very
Yeah.
confidently tries to start putting like butter on his biscuit with a spoon and is like, yeah, I got this. So great.
And so, like, while all this is happening, right? I guess, like, the precipitating event is that he learns that his mom is in the hospital because she's relapsed with her drug addiction. And then, so this is paired, him kind of dealing with that problem, which basically is like he has to go back home for like a few hours and then, like, and then drive back. And decides, like, basically not to do anything to help his mom because, like, she sucks and he needs to move forward and, like, ascend to the elite class.
Yeah.
These are paired with, like, memories of his childhood. So you see, like, like his mom's drug addiction, his mom being shitty to him, his relationship with his grandma, played by Glenn Close, who I guess is kind of depicted as, like, the more, like, the better the more angelic matriarch, or whatever. Although, like, the film does, I guess, undercut that a little when, like, we see a flashback of her lighting her husband's back on fire.
He does mom all dirty in the book. No, man. Like, she's the best of us, and she set a man on fire.
Yeah. And then, like, basically then it ends. He goes back and he has his job interview. And throughout he, like, calls his wife that I guess he thinks is his spirit guide, which is weird. And then you find out that, like, his mom is, like, been sober for 6 years, and I guess it's supposed to imply that, like, JD being a shitty son, like, allowed her to, like, hit rock bottom and made her sober or whatever. Is there anything I'm missing, or is that basically what happens in this movie?
Nope. Extend that by 2 hours, and that's the movie.
Yep.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's not good. But so there's a lot of, like, specific scenes I'd like to zoom in, maybe, like, a little later in the show. But I think maybe we can talk a little bit about, just given that overall plot, what this movie is like, what this movie's political argument is, right? Because it seems like, to the extent the film has a narrative, right, it's that, like, Amy Adams keeps rearing her head, like, JD Vance keeps just trying to, be on the straight and narrow, and then Amy Adams shows up and is shitty, and, like, he eventually is just like, fuck you, mom, right? And so, like, what is the film saying about that? Ethan, you had something?
I mean, I don't think the film is saying a whole lot. I think we can get into it, because, like, compare this to something like an Aaron Sorkin film where, like, I can watch that and be like, I'm detested by this, but it's trying to say something that I find detestable. So often this is just, like, boring. So yeah, so I'll say that. I mean, it seems like the general premise is that things used to be good in Appalachia. Things have gotten worse over time because generation after generation, you have just across the board bad, fundamentally flawed people that live there that aren't willing to take accountability for how much they suck. And then it just compounds itself generation after generation. And the only, like, I guess, so the only way to, like, succeed is to just get out of Dodge, I guess, is to, like, go get a Yale degree. And I don't know, like, that's, I guess, the general premise.
The real problem is that people don't want to work. Like, that's like, that's what he diagnoses as the problem in Appalachia, is that people just don't want to get up and go to work. And that's how the book begins too. I know we're not talking about the book, but, like, that's what the film is. Ron Howard is like, it's like a post-lapsarian story about Mayberry. Like, he was in Mayberry, North Carolina, and now look, it's all gone to shit because people won't just go and work at Walgreens,
Yeah, and they're allowed to continue existing and not working. And I guess, like, the idea is the way it's like, you need to go cold turkey on these people. We need to stop abetting them living but also not working to exist.
Yeah. And I feel like JD Vance is also doing this thing, like, I don't know, like it's like how I remember like conservative politicians presenting themselves, like George Bush presenting himself as like a rural bumpkin. Like, motherfucker, you're a millionaire. Like, shut up. Harvard and Yale grad, like, educated. Mitch McConnell, same thing. Like, there's this way in which they're kind of presenting what they think the white working class is or wants.
Yeah, yeah.
And like maybe he started in Middletown, Ohio, but like, dude, you're a Yale law graduate now. You're in the elite. Shut up.
Yeah. It's like what we were talking about earlier with like the election being all about vibes, right? It's like our elections are media events, right? They're not about fucking policy, right? They're not about coherent articulations of political realities, right? Which obviously this movie can't be either, because your use of the word post-lapsarian is so apt, because like there is a post-lapsarian reality to Appalachia, which is like deindustrialization, right? But like the movie can't actually talk about that.
Yeah.
It's not that the people aren't working because deindustrialization happened. It's that because people aren't working, this like dystopia emerges, right?
And the thing that really stands out to me is it just by trying to present itself as presenting an actual reality, it can't get away from these undertones of like, wait, why is all this happening? But it has nothing to say about it. So you'll have these situations where the mother who put in decades working at the hospital is suddenly like immediately tossed out after she ODs, and they're just going to toss her out. And like, you could stop and be like, huh, that's sort of fucked up. But then we just move on. There's nothing done with that. It's just like, I guess the idea is like, yes, she should just be tossed out on the street because she OD'd and that's her fault for being addicted to drugs. You have multiple scenes where the police show up and never make the situation better, but they have nothing to say about that. They just like, it happens, and it's just meant to be character progression for JD Vance. And so even when it's refusing to consider systemic issues that are underlying like what's happening to these people, it all is presented as this character advancement for the shittiest person in the film, which is JD Vance.
I think to like piggyback on that, like generational trauma is shown in the film, and like I would say like a very small snippet of it, right? But somehow that character takes trauma and like makes it, there's no compassion, and there is no like, for him, like there's no like inward work about like, oh, like how did this like affect me growing up, like how does this trauma like then, like where's the work on himself, which is why I would like to say that the best character in this film is his sister Lindsay. I would have much rather have watched a movie about Lindsay staying Lindsay, who I feel like based upon like what is like said in the movie, who like also was in a circle of generational trauma, who ended up staying within there. And I would say because she stayed there and because she was like still in Appalachia, still in this town, like still entrenched in this community, has a much better understanding and has a much better like, and has a much more compassion towards like the systemic issues that they're facing.
Well, she has empathy, and to JD Vance, it seems like everything he has to do, like with his mom, with every like going back, it's like it's this familiar obligation and it's a burden to him. Whereas like she seems like a genuinely empathetic person who, is much better. Yeah. It's
well, because she didn't escape Appalachia, right? She can't be a real person.
Yeah.
To go with that, may I please read you a small snippet of a review from this movie about JD Vance? But in the process of watching him cut his losses and recommit to his own success is rendered in a way that isn't just dramatically unsatisfying to the extreme, but is also on the verge of sociopathic.
Ain't wrong.
It's so funny, right? Because it's like because the JD Vance character, it's not really a character, right? They're just trying to be like, oh, just become like a good like PMC type, but But JD Vance is just so potently psychopathic, like that. Like it actually ends up, I think, in spite of itself, because it is somewhat fidelitous. It's fairly fidelitous to like the text. I think like the psychopathy of Vance does seep through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, the film is almost like unintentionally subversive because you watch it and you're like, oh, this guy is like a serial killer who just like managed to like get a law degree instead of killing people.
So we can dig it. I think there's some themes we want to dig into, but before we do that, I think just the plot, as we've mentioned, is mostly non-existent, but maybe there are a few plot points that I think stood out to each of us. So I don't know if anyone wants to kick us off and just let's fucking wrap up the plot, if you can call it that, section of this episode. What are some standout moments from Ronald Howard's Hillbilly Elegy?
All right, so I have to start here. I'm sorry, but given that we are like, the dad of the podcast is James Cameron, we have to talk about the Terminator scene. My favorite line of the entire movie is, and this is really, I think, like speaking of this movie making JD Vance seem like a psycho, is his grandma is sitting on the couch watching Terminator 2 on television. And JD Vance sits down and says, "Can I put on Meet the Press? There's a special on Monica Lewinsky." And what I love about this question is JD Vance looks at that and he's like, this is me telling the reader or the viewer how like I was such a precocious child that cared about like politics and the issues, unlike like the trailer trash around me that just care about like entertainment. And what it actually is like, it's like that. No, you're a sociopath. Like you are like 13 and you want to see the Monica Lewinsky special. What the fuck is wrong with you? But then like this scene turns into a little bit of a dialogue about like how many times Meemaw has seen Terminator, right? And she then she kind of gives him her like lesson on life, her like moral schema that she apparently like gleaned from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is that there are 3 types of people. There are good Terminators, bad Terminators, and it's like, I'm with you so far. And then there are neutral Terminators. And I'm just like, one, why the fuck do you need to watch Terminator 2 to come up with the idea of like good, bad, and neutral? But also, what the fuck is a neutral Terminator? Right? Like the neutral Terminator is the fucking the T983 that he steals from the store, right? But I think it's like really interesting because I actually think like this is presented as if JD Vance then is like learning like, oh, I need to be the good Terminator. I can't just be neutral, right? I have to be good, and good means like abandoning your mom and going to law school. But I think what the film is actually about is about JD Vance wanting to be a neutral calculator. Yeah. I mean a neutral Terminator.
Yeah.
And
I think it's funny, like JD Vance has to understand morality like a robot.
Yeah.
Like, must be good. Bad is bad.
Yeah. And he tries to take, I think, what is essentially the technocrat path, right? I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to like push the buttons of the state or whatever. Yeah.
He's gonna.
But what he doesn't understand is that's actually bad. That's part of the system, right? And as are the libs who love this movie and this book, right? They think they're in some kind of centrist position, but they literally helped prop up the guy who is now the like crazy sexist vice presidential candidate. Mm-hmm. And like if anyone's a bad Terminator right now, it's got to be JD Vance, right?
Yeah, what would Meemaw have to say about that?
If you are a neutral Terminator in a situation of injustice, you've chosen the side of the bad Terminator.
Listen, if you're a neutral Terminator and you walk in a room with several women in it that you don't know, you're just going to have neutral questions like, when was the last time you had a period? Do you have any like plane tickets booked to leave the state?
I'm glad.
What is your sexual history? How many partners have you had? These are neutral questions.
I do want. I know that you. This is a very brief scene in the film, right? Like this is, you know, a minute or so.
I mean, what isn't a brief scene in this film, though, right?
Yeah, it felt every minute of this film felt like a lifetime. But just to be clear, the book Hillbilly Elegy is dedicated to Mima and Papa, my very own hillbilly Terminators. So I do want to be clear that this Terminator analogy is central to JD Vance's conceptions of like his own life and morality, and he sucks.
And think about that word, Terminator. Right? The only thing you can do in the world is terminate.
It's pretty unambiguous.
But there's good, bad, and neutral ways to do it.
So the one that stood out to me, and I think it's really minimal, but it speaks to, I think, like the kind of psychopath, the latent psychopath that we see in the film, is when he's like driving back to New Haven for his job interview, and what's his wife's name? Usha, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, she's like, I'm gonna stay on the phone with you all night long. And I was like, that is fucking crazy. Like if Catie, my wife, was like, hey, I'm gonna stay on the phone with you for 8 hours, I'd be like, ooh, goddamn, really? What?
And this is before unlimited
minutes. What are we gonna talk about? Yeah. Like the person I love more in the world than anybody, we would maybe be on the phone 10 minutes tops. If you can talk for 8 hours straight, you're insane. You're a crazy person. Mm-hmm. My hot take.
I would say that the most salient scene to me is not really a scene, but it's more so something that I noticed throughout the movie that I can't really pin my thing. Like I can't really make sense of it, and perhaps that's just because it's shitty film. But Kenton, do people from Middletown, Ohio, sound like what adult JD Vance sounds like? Not his kid version, because his kid version, I feel like, does not have an accent.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
I don't know.
I'm glad I'm not crazy, because I'm like, homeboy, there's no way that you sound like that. There's no way.
It was weird. Like, so I was in Southeast Ohio, Middletown, Southwest, and I went to college there. It's where Miami University is. And yeah, so it's just like a really kind of mild accent. I don't know where. So that's the other thing I think is really interesting when people do like Appalachian stuff. Like, I don't know did y'all see the Devil All the Time, I think it's called?
Yeah, I
and
saw
like
that.
Robert Pattinson has that crazy accent. That movie's set where I'm from, Southeast Ohio. And I'm like, what are people hearing? And like the Appalachian accent that is producing this cinematic version. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I completely agree, Catie. I don't know what that's about. It's so like, yeah, and it always just feels so like forced. The whole film feels forced to me. Like, here's what I think Appalachia is, and that's always like really like front and center. Like, this isn't organic at all.
We'll say, I think that they nailed the character. I think that they did the casting really well. I mean, the lack of charisma that this main character, like this main actor, has, I think
It's so true.
Spot on.
It really speaks to the film that like only Amy Adams and Glenn Close are billed on the poster. The actors that play JD Vance literally aren't named on the poster. They're really just like, yeah, JD Vance is just like he's a nothing at the center of this movie. But yeah, and it's also, I did respect, I was gonna give it a half star on Letterboxd, but I gave it 1 star out of respect for the fact that they didn't make him hot. Because, like, you know, Hollywood loves to be like, you know, you watch any historical film or biopic, suddenly everyone's fucking super hot in history, right? And they were like, oh yeah, no, JD Vance is just sort of like boring, like just a boring guy. But there's also I like the headcanon you've given me, Catie, where JD Vance doesn't have an accent, but then grows up, moves to Connecticut, and starts affecting one as part of trying to perform this like Appalachian identity to the East Coasters, much like when he gets mad at the hillbilly thing, right? So we're actually seeing this film is like unintentionally a like hillbilly American Psycho.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I'll just throw one more in there that we've briefly mentioned, which is the calculator.
Oh yeah, we've been kind of
important.
talking around the calculator, right?
Yeah.
Tell the listeners what happens.
We kicked off the episode mentioning the calculator, and I feel like we just need to mention that JD has got to do math real bad, and he like there's a whole subplot about him really wanting a calculator. And then he tries to steal it, but his Mima like he fails, so his Mima buys it for him. And then they sort of just end it there. One thing that
he throws it out the window, and then she makes him go out and get it.
Oh yes, he throws it out the window. She makes him get it. He does say, "Can I read from Hillbilly Elegy?"
Please,
because this is where the calculator comes. It only talks about the calculator for a paragraph, but it becomes a whole subplot in this film. My junior year, I tested into honors advanced math class, a hybrid of trigonometry, advanced algebra, and pre-calculus. The class's instructor, Ron Selby, enjoyed legendary status among the students for his brilliance and high demands. In 20 years, he had never missed a day of school. According to Middletown High School legend, a student called in a bomb threat during one of Selby's exams, hiding the explosive device in a bag in his locker. With the entire school evacuated outside, Selby marched into the school, retrieved the contents of the kid's locker, marched outside, and threw those contents into a trash can. I've had that kid in class. He's not smart enough to make a functioning bomb, Selby told the police officers gathered at the school. Now let my students get back to class to finish their exams.
That is so fucked up.
That's the man who knows how to work right there.
Exactly. No one's going to stop these kids from their math exams. And that's why, like, he really wanted to take Mr. Selby's class, and he encouraged them to get TI-89 calculators. So Mima bought that for him for $180.
Being from a family of educators, bomb threats are not great.
Yeah.
There's nobody who's gonna say, okay, I have heard like things happen, and my parents go, oh, like, yeah, could have told you that kid is not, 100. They would not have like gone into the locker, gotten that stuff out, and then saying back to class. No, something extra time.
Also, I don't think the police would be like, oh, this weird dude just walked out and threw a bomb on the lawn. Back to school, everyone. Like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, maybe it's just apocryphal and he's lying in his book. Who can say? Yeah. But it's a weird aside.
To relate it to my own experience, my school did have a bomb threat, and my mom made me go to school that day. So maybe my school had an anthrax threat, and the FBI came because someone had like this was right when that anthrax scare was happening after 9/11. So I recall that. But, I didn't have a cool math teacher to come out and hold the bag of anthrax and be like,
just like rubbing it on his gums.
He does LeBron James.
This is an
take our trig calculator. We got to take our trig test now.
Yeah, and then he dies of a cocaine overdose. But this is big for you, Ethan, because, you're, of course, a math education professor, academic. Yeah. And this is like the most math education we've ever had on the pod. But it's to be somewhat serious. This is, I think, another example alongside like when he gets mad at the hospital for getting his mom hooked on drugs, right? Where he's actually coming up against what is a systemic issue, right? Which is like students having to buy their own school supplies. And in the case of calculators, that becomes really apparent because it's such a high ticket item, right? And it becomes a mark of class status, who has the best calculator, right? And instead of that, the solution to that being like, oh, we should have like schools should be funded and these things should be provided to everyone. It's man, fuck my grandma for buying this for me.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting because Ethan and I talked about this, and Ethan and I was like, oh, I was like, I actually like that is actually the thing that like I guess like that I connect with the most with that. And I was like, I also had to buy my own calculator. And he's like, well, yeah, but we didn't go to Title One schools. I'm like, no, I actually did go to a Title One school. And like in Kentucky at that time, like there wasn't funding for, at least where we were, they used funding for other things because like that's part of like states and schools can use the funding for whatever they find. And within that, you're limiting the access of education for people, right? And that's not to say that like students weren't able to get free calculators, but I think the unspoken rule was like, if you like, you have to get this. If you can't get it, let me know. But it wasn't everyone gets a TI or a T984, right? And I think like, I don't know, that was like something that really about anyway.
Yeah, I'll add on to that, and I don't know how familiar folks are with what Title I means, but it's essentially a way that we fund schools through property taxes. And wow, isn't that weird that communities that cannot pay higher property taxes, their schools are underfunded, and so Title I is a way that the federal government steps in to help pay for those schools because we have the shittiest possible system of funding schools. I taught middle school math in Title I school. All my kids had TI 84 calculators. I can't remember which Texas Instrument it was, but they had those through a Title I grant. And who gives out Title I grants? The goddamn Department of Education that JD Vance wants to get rid of. So
socialism.
Just Dance Vance, you piece of shit. If you want every kid to have a calculator, don't be a piece of shit that wants to get rid of the Department of Education. That's a slight aside. I'll leave it at that. But fuck this guy.
That was a great aside. For what it's worth, I love it. More asides.
Yeah. Who wants to do a game?
I do.
All right.
Just me.
Yeah.
All right, me and Ethan are gonna play. You guys chill out.
Just Kenton. Yeah. So we normally call this game Vox Populi, but this is an adaptation of that that I like to call Shortest Dreams from My Hillbilly Father, a story of race, inheritance, and one mayor's challenge. As you're all, I'm sure, aware from that title, JD Vance, not the first dude to write a memoir that launched into a political career. So what we're going to be doing is I've got some quotes for you. Now, some of these quotes are from Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family and culture in crisis by JD Vance. However, some of these quotes are from Dreams from My Father, a story of race and inheritance by President Barack Obama. Came out in 2004, his big emergence onto the political scene. And a few of these are also from Shortest Way Home, One Mayor's Challenge, and a Model for America's Future by...
Is that Pete?
Pete Buttigieg. So... you're going to have to guess, does this quote come from, you could just say Vance, Obama, or Buttigieg. Sound good?
Love it. Three of our favorite people. Three of our favorite people on the podcast.
We love them all. And I didn't put any more thought into the game, so there's nothing beyond that. So like Hillbilly Elegy, the film, this is going to just sort of peter out. Okay?
I'm going to call Catie and be talking the whole time while I'm playing the game.
Here,
what would the Pete Buttigieg movie be called?
Oh, man.
Who's Your Eulogy?
I mean, you know where like Hillbilly Elegy comes from.
I don't actually. Where does it?
It's a take on Bell Hooks' book.
Yeah.
Disgustingly.
Appalachian Eulogy.
Yeah.
Appalachian Elegy.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Do his supporters know about that? Sounds like my dude's been reading some critical race theory. I don't know. Does Trump know about this?
Do you know how long it would take to explain bell hooks to like people who are fans of Hillbilly Elegy? Anyways. All right. So here we go. I've got a quote. Does this come from JD, Barack, or Mayor Pete? And we will begin with you, Devin.
Okay.
Okay. And I will remove any references to like places, dates, time that may date it. So just be aware of that.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Dubois, who taught gym and drafting, comes to mind. He spoke with a thick southern blank drawl, combed what remained of his white hair back, and usually called gym class to order by barking, "Line up, you idiots," or occasionally, for variety, "Line up, you morons." Over time, I would come to understand that this was a way of showing affection. But you can see how, at least early on, this could be a little intimidating, especially since gym class was not my scene. It would be a good 10 years or so before I experienced any real level of physical fitness. So the primary objective was to survive without embarrassment. Devin, who said this line?
It's interesting because it's like, I think like, obviously the Southern accent makes you maybe lean certain directions, but I think that could be a trick, right? I'm mostly trying to go off prose style here. And I feel like the prose style, I'm leaning Buttigieg, and this is why. I haven't read Obama's books, but based on his speeches, I'm just like, I'm expecting a little bit more flowery language. And like JD Vance, I'm expecting it to sound more like it was like written by like throwing pudding cups at a keyboard from like 50 feet away. Whereas this was just sort of like boring, competent prose with like a couple attempts to be funny. And then I know Pete Buttigieg, obviously they both eventually go into the military, right? Him and Vance, but I can see that being the narrative of like Buttigieg being like, oh, I'm kind of like, I'm a closeted nerd kid. And then like, I go into the military and I get fit. So that's my guess.
Devin, you are correct. That is a line that Pete Buttigieg wrote for his book. So you're on the board with 1 point. And we will good job, Devin. And we will take it to you, Catie. And your line is, I think perhaps education doesn't do us much good unless it is mixed with sweat.
That's it?
Some of these are shorter than others.
Okay. Hear me out. There's nothing that I think about Vance that would make me think that he would say that.
He looks pretty sweaty. I'm just going to push back a little there, but go on.
Maybe. But then I also think, though, that Michelle Obama wanted people to like exercise and move. And I know that physical fitness is a big hallmark for Obama. Can you read it to me again?
You want me to read it like I'm not going to do an Obama impression. Let me be clear. Yeah. I think perhaps education doesn't do us much good unless it is mixed with sweat.
I'm going to say Obama.
And you would be correct. That is indeed written by Barack Obama.
That was a good poll.
Thank you.
Nice.
I'm going to get mine wrong because in my mind, I've guessed Vance twice. I've been wrong twice.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
here you go.
I'm ready.
Okay. Who said this? But you see, a rich country like America can perhaps afford to be stupid.
I'm going with Vance.
Yeah, I get that, but that was Obama calling America stupid. Where was the Oppo research? Excuse me.
Oh man, I love
America can afford to be stupid.
Afford to be stupid.
He ain't wrong. So So we're now through round 1. Devin won, Catie won, Kenton not on the board yet, but that's because all of these sound like something Vance could say. And we're back to you.
Yeah, in my defense. Yeah.
Man, it's so scary to be like, when do you guess Vance? Because it's like, you know the Vance
I
is
know,
coming,
it's
but
coming.
it's like when you're doing a multiple choice test and there hasn't been like any C's yet.
Exactly.
And you're like, surely there has to be one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why I did so bad in school. I can talk myself into or out of any answer.
Yep. Here you go, Devin. Who said this? There's nobody to guide through the process of becoming a man, to explain to them the meaning of manhood. And that's a recipe for disaster.
There's nobody. What was the beginning part?
There's nobody to guide through the process of becoming a man, to explain to them the
Weird
meaning
sentence.
of manhood.
Like, it's just grammatically strange.
There's no one out there who I can
there's no like object for the verb, you know. So let's see. I know Obama has like a complicated relationship to his father, but also JD Vance, like, does he like not have a dad? His dad like wasn't around because he's not in the movie, at least.
Unexplained
so
in the film, yeah.
The problem of watching JD Vance's biography, Hillbilly Elegy, is like you kind of like everything that happens in it is so boring that you actually leave it knowing less about JD Vance than when you started. But I'm gonna guess Obama.
And you would be correct. That was indeed Obama. Yeah. You're up with 2 points now, Devin.
We still have no Vances. No Vances on the board.
No Vances on the board.
Vance is like in the green room of the NFL draft, just like sweating.
I'm gonna laugh if none of these quotes are from JD Vance.
Yeah.
that would be a very funny troll.
All right, Catie, who said this? In my immature brain, I didn't understand the difference between intelligence and knowledge, so I assumed I was an idiot.
I don't think that JD Vance assumes that he's an idiot. But do I think Pete Buttigieg also at one point thought that he was an idiot? I don't think that here's the thing. I don't think that men think that they're idiots. I don't think that they would ever say that about themselves. I'm gonna go with Buttigieg.
Close, but this was JD Vance, assuming he was an idiot. I think the key here is, so I assumed I was an idiot. I'm assuming this then evolves into like, I'm actually the smartest and main character of all time. So
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, the liberal elites had tricked me into thinking I was an idiot.
Exactly.
When actually they were idiots.
Yep.
If we just like defunded the silverware at Yale, then we could give like, $100,000 more to the police.
Exactly. Hey, speaking of the Ivy Leagues, Kenton, here's your line.
That was an excellent seg.
What else does Mayor Pete and Obama and JD Vance have in common? Ivy League educations. Today, people look at me, at my job and my Ivy League credentials, and assume that I'm some sort of genius, that only a truly extraordinary person could have made it to where I am today. With all due respect to those people, I think that theory is a load of bullshit.
I've talked myself into and out of all three already.
Yeah.
While I have the floor, I'm going to say, Devin, you had asked what would Pete Buttigieg's biopic be titled. I would say, I can't believe it's not Buttigieg. I just wanted to get that out. And nice. I'm going to go with Vance again.
You are correct. This is Vance. Nice. So think of this as a follow-up to assuming I was an idiot. This is him also saying I'm not an extraordinary person.
Yeah.
Interesting.
People don't work hard enough. Anybody can go to Yale.
Back to you, Devin. Round 3. You're in the lead with 2. Devin, who said this? Better to be strong, he said. If you can't be strong, be clever and make peace with someone who's strong. But always better to be strong yourself.
That was the bad Terminator.
That's fucking weird advice. Yeah. It does kind of have like a bad Terminator vibe, right? But then the question is the he. Who is this he, right?
Yeah.
Is this good advice or bad advice according to the writer, right? There's a lot,
Wow.
we don't have a lot of context here to know. People say Nietzsche said God is dead. He wrote a character that said God is dead, These are complicated questions. But there's no way there's 3 Vances in a row. But there could be.
You really cracked the code there.
Can I get it one more time?
You may indeed. Better to be strong, he said. If you can't be strong, be clever and make peace with someone who's strong. But always better to be strong yourself.
I'm going to say Buttigieg because this seems like the advice of somebody that would like drop out of the Democratic primary because Obama called him.
So this quote, you asked who this was, who said this. This quote was said by Lolo Soetoro, who was an Indonesian geographer and stepfather to Barack Hussein Obama. So, unfortunately, this was an Obama quote. So there you have it.
I was going to guess it was a trick question that it came from I Ain't Got Time to Bleed by Jesse the Body Ventura.
I wish.
Multi-time topic on the podcast, actually.
Yep.
We love Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh,
we do.
Excellent.
We do. On to you, Catie. Who said this line? The boarded up homes, the decaying storefronts, the aging church rolls, kids from unknown families who swagger down the streets, loud congregations of teenage boys, teenage girls feeding potato chips to crying toddlers, the discarded rappers tumbling down the block. All of it whispered painful truths. Who's talking about painful truths?
Look, I'm between Buttigieg and Vance, but I don't know.
You do need to choose one. So,
God, is it Buttigieg?
this is a quote from Barack Obama's book.
Huh.
Really?
Oh, Devin, did you know
would've been
that?
No, that would have been my third guess too, just because it sounded very like Rust Belty or whatever,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, Indiana, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess whoever chose these quotes. Yeah. All right, Kenton.
All right.
It's back to you.
I'm ready.
Who said this quote? A good friend once told me that a lot of lines in all of these about like people telling me things. Do you think any of these people, I guess the Obama person did exist, but a lot of lines of like other people said it, not me. So it's actually okay for me. Okay. Anyways, a good friend once told me the best way to look at this might be to recognize that you probably can't fix these things. They'll always be around, but maybe you can put your thumb on the scale a little for the people at the margins.
What?
Okay. I don't believe JD Vance has any friends. And I have guessed JD Vance 2 times already now. But I'm going to go with Vance for a 3rd time.
Kenton, you'd be correct. This is JD Vance strangely talking about helping people at the margins. I can only I didn't write it down. I'm gonna assume the good friend is Peter Thiel. So there you go. You're now tied for first with Devin with 2 points, Catie following right behind with 1 point, which brings us into our next round out of an undefined number of rounds that I do have here. So, Devin, who said this line? Jesus, these are all so bad. I haven't prepared like which ones I'm asking you, so I'm just sort of going through all the ones I came up with. Here you go. All the education and good intentions in the world couldn't help plug up the holes in the universe or give you the power to change its blind, mindless course.
Huh. Man, this is so interesting. This exercise is actually very interesting, right? Because it's such an expose of a number of things. Like, just memoir, worst literary genre. Fuck memoir. It's made up. It's just like I lied. It's the I lied genre. And I also had no ideas that I wasn't creative. Like, write a novel, you fucking piece of shit. And also just like our completely vacuous, dead end political culture that just all anyone says is like the identical gobbledygook. You know, and then we're like, oh, there's like a fucking conspiracy. We need investigators to figure out how fucking Trump got elected, you know? Like somebody showed up and said something different, you know, basically. People were like, oh, that's not, you know, so I don't even remember what the quote is anymore but I remember like the message of the quote was like things can't change or something. You can't do anything about anything. And like I can't think of three figures who encapsulate that more than Vance, Buttigieg, and Obama. But I do think I think the historical king of not actually accomplishing anything is Barack Obama. That motherfucker had 70 votes, you know? So I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to be like, that's the mantra of a man who's like, I know I have 70 votes, but I should wait to my second term to do healthcare because, you know, to do single payer healthcare because like, you know, nothing's ever gone wrong in a midterm. It's not like midterm elections historically always favor the party that's not holding the White House. So there we go.
Yep, you're in the lead now, Devin, with 3 points because that very
yeah.
nihilistic quote.
Don't do anything.
the man who we all remember from the poster that said "change" on it, indeed saying, "What are you gonna do?"
God, that fucking rules. That's
just a strict Calvinist. It's just everything is preordained. It's like there's nothing you can do. Okay, so you're in the lead.
I love him so much in a way. You know, he is just, and then all he does now is just send out fucking playlists and reading lists, like and fuck up the Bernie nomination. You know, hell of a guy.
Jesus. Okay, Catie, who said this line? Pajamas. Poor people don't wear pajamas. We fall asleep in our underwear or blue jeans. To this day, I find the very notion of pajamas an unnecessary elite indulgence, like caviar or electric ice cube makers.
JD Vance.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. He looks like somebody who would sleep in his jeans.
Yeah.
Like caviar.
When he's cracking open a nice Diet Mountain Dew, as he was telling that that crowd, you know, a possibly racist Diet Mountain Dew, he's only using like hand wrought ice.
Yeah. He does seem like someone who'd go on a diatribe about quote electric ice cube makers. So
I've never even heard that phrase said.
What that is.
Like that to me, when I think of that, like Catie and I were talking about maybe. Catie and I didn't realize that our refrigerator makes ice cubes for the first several months that we lived here. It was unbeknownst to us. We eventually figured it out, but before we figured it out, we're like, do we just buy a thing that makes ice cubes? Because we are very lazy and just want ice cubes. So to me, like, that's not an elite thing. That's like, we don't have a refrigerator that makes ice cubes. Let's just get a thing that does it for us. Like, I don't know. Doesn't seem very elite. But pajamas. Poor people don't wear pajamas, don't you know?
Just, what's he have against pajamas?
Well, you know, poor people famously, like, they like to just walk around naked all the time.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not a pajama guy, but like, I don't think that's the problem.
It's not even that we sleep in our underwear. He says we sleep in our underwear in jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck? Who the fuck is sleeping in jeans in Kentucky in like the summer?
Yeah. Ain't no way. There ain't no way that JD Vance has ever slept in blue jeans. I'm sorry.
If he thinks that, like, you know, electronic ice makers are elite, wait until he hears about air conditioning.
Yeah.
We all remember the Wrangler commercials where Brett Favre would just like, you know, tuck himself into bed.
Hey, y'all. 1, 2, 3.
I thought that was part of the quote that I was going to guess. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
That's Hillary Clinton. That one's Hillary Clinton. I know that one.
I've just looked at.
Jeez, this is like a real Iowa caucus situation over here.
We're on to our last round. On to our last round.
What's the score right now?
Oh, we're not on to our last round. Kenton, you still have to go, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh yeah. We need.
So we're not there yet, folks. Stay in line. If you're in line for this round, stay in line.
This riveting game.
Here you go, Kenton.
I'm ready.
Who said this? It was as if he had come to mistrust words somehow. Words? I'm sorry. Let me begin again. It's
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Okay. It was as if he had come to mistrust words somehow. Words and the sentiments words carried.
So fair enough. Jesus. I was like,
it's a hard one.
It was like, no way it's Vance, but I was like, maybe he just trusts words and there's sentiments. You know what? Guessing Vance every time got me here. I'm gonna do it again. Vance.
Unfortunately, this was Obama.
Damn.
Yep.
Do you know who he's referring to in that quote?
I don't. I really don't.
Probably Joe Biden.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that does. Oh, it's. I should have assumed it was his stepdad again.
Ah, the stepdad.
So, I mean,
is the stepdad the father in dreams of my father, or
my stepfather?
Is it his like? Because I know his like biological dad wasn't really like in his life. So
right, a good question. I don't have the answer to it, but yes, very good question. Anyways, more importantly, let's get on to
it says he modeled Dreams of My Father on Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man.
And that brings us to the last round. We've got a couple longer ones and one short one. But, Devin, I like giving you longer quotes. So we're going to start with this one. And, ooh, it's a doozy. Who said this, Devin? Dawn comes late here along the western limit of the Eastern time zone, so far from the coast that our first sunrise of the year arrives after 8 in the morning. Most January days are cloudy, making sunup a hidden and gradual process. Less a moment of daybreak than a cold shift from the illuminated night, in which the cloud ceiling and the snow cover reflect the sodium streetlights between them into an orange glow. So bright you can read the paper outside at 4 in the morning. So the first hint of morning actually makes things seem darker, as the amber nightlights yields the... What the fuck? As the amber nightlight yields and the sky deepens into a kind of electric indigo, the species of light evolve around you, from luminous ambience to discrete points of light along the horizon, the general giving way to the specific.
Man. Okay. So I'll be really shocked if it's Vance. It really does. It's giving Obama, like with the floweriness, but I'm almost guessing this is Buttigieg impersonating Obama, because Buttigieg very much like was trying to be like the white Obama. So, and he did have like, I feel like he had that like one really weird speech where he was talking about like the power went out in this one speech and everyone like held up their phones.
Oh Jesus!
And then the discrete points of light there. So like there's maybe something there, but I'm gonna say Buttigieg. But yeah, we'll see.
This is indeed the opening paragraph from Shortest Way Home, One Mayor's Challenge, and a Model for America's Future. And
man, he really blew his load on that paragraph.
Man. He brainstormed and revised that thing so many times.
While you were reading, I was thinking like if there was like a tinkling guitar playing behind you, it would have sounded like a Folgers commercial or something.
Yeah.
The sky deepens into a kind of electric indigo. The species of light evolve around you. Like, what the fuck, dude? You were the mayor of fucking South Bend, Indiana. Okay. Devin, you're in the lead, but we're going on to Catie now. Catie, who said this line. It's another long one. I thought I could start over, you see, but now I know you can never start over. Not really. You think you have control, but you're like a fly on someone else's web. Sometimes I think that's why I like accounting. All day, you are only dealing with numbers. You add them, multiply them, and if you're careful, you will always have a solution. There's a sequence there, an order. With numbers, you can have control.
Neutral Terminator.
I mean, with JD Vance's love of math, how can it not be him? I will say JD Vance.
You'd think, but this was the true neutral Terminator, Barack Obama, talking about numbers. I guess he likes accounting. I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Damn it.
All right, Kenton.
I'm ready.
Here you go. Who
Lay it on
said
me.
this line? It's a one sentence line. So
Beautiful.
let's make every word count. Nothing compares to the fear that you're becoming the monster in your closet.
JD Vance.
That was indeed JD Vance, Kenton. And that's our daily triple.
And that monster is a neutral Terminator.
Very nice and sort of
programmed
like
to be a fascist.
exactly. I will say the one that I didn't use was this line, which, you know, who can guess where this was from? The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning was, can you guess what the title? Actually, here's what we'll do. I'm thinking on the fly here. This was, of course, from Obama's book.
Yeah.
The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning. I'd like you to share what you think the title of that sermon was. Privately send it to me, and then we'll go through each person. And this will be our last question, because currently we have Devin with 4, Catie with 2, Kenton with 3. And so we'll make this one worth, I don't know, 3 points, because then Devin could lose with that. And so let's put in your responses. What do you think Reverend Wright's sermon was that Obama mentions in this quote? We all remember good old Reverend Wright.
Reverend Wright, of course, was like Obama's pastor. There was a lot of like election campaign controversy because he had expressed, you know, what were considered extreme views.
Wow.
And Obama, of course, in a preview of things to come, threw him under the bus.
Sure did.
Okay.
Man, but this is making me really nostalgic for that era, though. Do you remember, like, the beer summit?
Yeah. Yeah.
What a quaint little era that was.
Man,
As, like, drone bombings are just raising down from the sky, you know.
could you imagine if there was any police like violence and discrimination after the beer summit? It's incredible how that worked flawlessly.
Yeah, we sniffed that in the bud.
Yeah.
I still remember them reporting what beer each one of them got. And I don't remember what the cop had. I'm pretty sure Obama drank a Blue Moon and Skip Gates drank a Red Stripe. And I'm going to guess the cop drank like a Miller Lite or something like that. So like it was like even on the level of like the beer choice, these like attempts at sort of like political media signification, right?
Okay, we're all locked in. We'll go in the same order. Devin, what did you say? What was the title of Reverend Wright's sermon?
The only like real like specific thing I can remember Reverend Wright saying is like there's this one quote I've heard like clipped where he says like not God bless America but God damn America. So I guessed that the speech was called or the sermon was called God damn America or something with that phrase in it somewhere. Maybe there's like additional words, but that's my guess.
Okay. Devin is locked in with God damn America. Catie, what did you say?
Well, I would just have to first put this out in the open. I was not yet of voting age when President Obama in 2008. I don't remember anything that happened. So I don't know. Don't bomb people. That's it.
If
it
only he'd
compel
listened.
yeah, yeah, if you know, if you may not have been aware in 2008, but do you remember every day since then? So yes, perhaps Reverend Wright was optimistically telling us not to bomb people. And Kenton, what did you think Reverend Wright's
Yeah,
sermon was?
we had just talked about how much he loved accounting, so I thought maybe his love of accounting started there. So I said, accounting your way into heaven, like a seven-step approach or something like
That's a
that.
good one.
Yeah.
Oh, let me give you the full sentence. Here you go, everyone. This is, of course, from Barack Obama's 2004 Dreams from My Father, a story of race and inheritance. The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning was The Audacity of Hope.
Oh,
Oh, man, he didn't even come up with that himself.
Yeah,
It was Reverend Wright.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. That's like, writing a best-selling book called fucking, like, I don't know, Stairway to Heaven.
That should have been the title of the sermon. Shit.
Yeah. Oh. Wow. I think there's a lot of overlap between Audacity of Hope and Goddamn America, but I award you all no points, which means we end with Devin at 4, Kenton at 3, Catie at 2, which of course means that Devin, you lose because you had the most points in this game about Hillbilly Elegy and related political memoirs. So may
Yeah,
God help your soul
Yeah,
for
congratulations,
getting the
Catie.
most questions correct.
Yeah, no, that's not something I'm going to be adding to my Hinge profile.
Oh, and that is a little game that we like to call Shortest Dreams from My Hillbilly Father, a story of race, inheritance, and one mayor's challenge. So now we've come to synthesizing our discussion about Hillbilly Elegy. And we've dug into, I think, a lot of, I don't even know where to go with this, man. Listen, here's a few things I want to say. The Yale scene, we talked about the silverware in that. I do want to call out it really, that the whole scene, the back and forth when he goes to the terrible Yale people, and it's to me, this is why he's the ideal Trump like VP candidate, because like they need to have validation that things like going to Yale matter, but also they need to simultaneously be like sort of shitting on those people. They live in this weird world where they need that validation. Like Trump thrives on the validation of like liberal media and all of that world. I feel like you get this with JD Vance, where like you're thriving on the validation from these people that you say are the worst people ever, and you're not wrong about that, but you're also sort of a part of that. And so like it's this balance of shitting on them, but still maintaining that they matter and are important. I don't know. So there's this weird balance that I feel like you get with those Yale scenes, and that kind of speaks to the ethos of someone like JD Vance or even like Pete Buttigieg, these folks who go to these elite institutions, Ted Cruz, all that, but then like speak about them, but rely on the fact that they went there. I don't know.
And I think it speaks to, right, like within like the political theater of US politics, right? The elites and elitism are not class categories, they're aesthetic categories. So Vance like can critique Yale for like basically being like rich people shit, right? For being fancy, right? Is the problem. It's hoity-toity, right? But there's no acknowledgement of the fact that like he is not a proletariat anymore, right? He is a part of the ruling class, right?
Yep.
And it seems like, in American politics, literally everyone is from the elite and no one is elite in their own self-conception. It's kind of like how like the middle class gets deployed as well. Like, like everyone thinks they're middle class or self-identifies with it. So, and it seems like the film likewise is like schizophrenic about elitism.
It's so weird because the whole thing is about JD Vance escaping this hell on earth that is Appalachia that has no redeemable people. And how does he escape it? By going to Yale. It's sort of hilarious that they just don't even mention him being in the military at all in this film. They like have
I think just
in
the final, there's like one little clip, and then like there's like a final, when you get the like where are they now shit at the end, right? It's mentioned.
But they center it on him going to Yale, and so it's like, how do you escape it? By becoming this, like, you go through the elite institutions and
you become the monster in your closet.
Exactly. But that, like, the thing that undergirds that, though, to me, that is maybe missing actually from Hillbilly Elegy is like those folks from these elite institutions did this to Appalachia. Like, these are the same people that like exploited and destroyed any semblance of a way of life that people in Appalachia have. And so it's this really monstrous story of how do you escape this problem? How do you escape the fact that again, in JD Vance's view, everyone in Appalachia is irredeemable? You become the monster that created the problem. It's so grotesque, and I just thought it's important to call out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the incoherency of capitalism itself, right? It's like, how do you get out of being a proletariat? You become a capitalist, but a capitalist can only be a capitalist if there's a proletariat, right? So, like, JD's prescription for Appalachia is like, it's just like when the Democrats are like, oh, we're gonna like teach poor people how to code. And it's like, okay, but if you teach everyone how to code, coding is no longer going to be a skill that brings one, like, allows for class mobility, right? And the film and JD Vance himself, right, seem unable to think of or acknowledge that, right? It's like, if you're poor, it always has to be because you fucked up. It's not because, like, are there poor people who have made mistakes? Obviously, right? Are there rich people who have made mistakes? Obviously, no. Right? But it always becomes like, oh, you could have just been the exceptional person, right? But the exceptional person is literally exceptional, like mathematically exceptional if we take our graphing calculators out, right? So not everyone can be, like, I used to get into these arguments in like high school with my friends who would be like, well, the person that works at McDonald's should just work their way up and become the manager. And I'm like, cool, but not everyone can become the manager. There can't be like 20 new managers, right? Like, so essentially the idea is always like, oh, there's a, like, it is very Calvinist, right? There's like a chosen percentage of people who are like the hard workers who will deserve class mobility and get that exceptional result. And everyone else just didn't work hard enough, didn't do a good enough job. Right?
You know, it's like really interesting to watch this movie and to know that it is for people like me who I feel did grow up and like very privileged in an area. Like, you know, that's because, like, I'm not going to say I'm from Appalachia because I'm technically not, but like, I mean, I feel like this movie is made for people like me who, like, the biggest thing that has been told to us over and over and over again is like to get out. But once you get out, you are absolved of any relationship or responsibility you have towards your region. And that, to me, I think is that's the message, right? You've done your duty, you have gotten out, great, good job. And that's not, you can't think of, like, you know, that's not helping your community.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, this guy sucks. Speaking of other people who suck, I feel like everyone involved in the creation of and sustenance of this film suck.
Yeah, and especially we should talk about Ron Howard, right? Ron Howard, because this is the thing, right? We've really been talking about Vance as sort of like the auteur behind this film. You know, it is his like story, but this the director of this film is Ron Howard, like the king of the middle brow, right? He sucks. He has like no aesthetic point of view, right? And he just kind of churns out movies, some of which are good, some of which are bad, right? He just sort of like will competently make the script that he is like provided with, more or less, right? And so this one comes in a real barn burner time of his career, where the three films he had made prior to Hillbilly Elegy were In the Heart of the Sea, the sort of like pseudo Moby Dick movie with Chris Hemsworth in it, Inferno, finishing off his trilogy of Da Vinci Code movies, and of course, Solo: A Star Wars Story. For everyone who's always wanted to know, like, how did they do the Kessel Run in however many parsecs, right? Like, so, and then he does Hillbilly Elegy. But he's had highs. He's had well-regarded films, like successful films like Apollo 13, Splash, Cocoon, right? A Beautiful Mind, which I don't think is a good film, but was like an Oscar-winning film, right? And he kind of, I think, is representative of like the liberal Hollywood kind of like mainstream, for lack of a better word, like average opinion in some way, because he seems to have like so little of a point of view, right? So what do you guys think of, like, if we try to like reframe this film not just as like a JD Vance film but as a Ron Howard film? How do you think that affects how we look at it?
Well, honestly, when you listed the last like 3 movies that he directed, I haven't seen any of them. So like maybe that's like kind of rolled into like like just his kind of position in Hollywood. It's just this kind of, my wife would say, beige curtains. He's just kind of like
Yeah.
there, It's not like offensive, it's just there. And when you asked me originally to be on the podcast, and when I was watching, I was thinking like, what about this story appealed to Ron Howard? Like, why was he like, oh, I have a idea for this movie? Like, I don't understand really any of it. Maybe it's just because I think the story is non-existent. But like, I don't know, just for me, like, it comes down to that. Like, what did he see in this? It feels like he didn't see anything, because like nothing happened at the end of the day. Like, he was just like, I'm gonna shoot some stuff and kind of mash it together and then give it to Netflix for an 8-figure sum. But also, I guess I also can't help but have like the Appalachian connection that he's got, like just through like the Appalachian, like the cultural imaginary of Appalachia, I should say, just as Opie, right? Like, he's like Appalachia at its most idyllic, and he's like giving us this, that I used that prelapse or post-lapsarian term earlier, but like, yeah, like that, like, so he's investigating, yeah, like what happened? How do we get from Mayberry to Middletown, Ohio, now that everybody's on opiates? So yeah, I don't know exactly. I don't know enough about Ron Howard's work to say how it fits in his larger body of work, but that seems to be like the trajectory that I see.
I mean, that's the thing about it, right? It's like, yeah, yes, I think that there's like something to be said of like the juxtaposition of like OP versus JD Vance, right? And like the times in which they grew up and how Appalachia or just rural America has changed. Um, but it's also like very clear that there's nobody to push back on it, right? Like, it's Appalachia and rural America are still very much a mystery to the outside world.
Mhm.
And I think part of it is because the cultures are not monolithic. Like, there are very distinct. There are some very beautiful things about the communities, right? And just like any other community, there's some really terrible things But those things, right? Like how much of it is because like the sheriff or the justice systems are corrupt? How much of it is that it's an old boys club? How much of it is that, Andy Griffith, who probably people looked up to as like a beautiful bastion of like justice or, you know, non-corrupt power, was actually like really shitty to like people who didn't have as much privilege.
Yeah. What you're saying is kind of making me think of just like Appalachia itself is it's a work of imagination, right? Like what we conceive of as Appalachia is like defined by the federal government, right? Like it's the Appalachian Regional Commission defined what Appalachia is, and it was defined around a very particular set of like imagery, and it really goes back to like Johnson and maybe even before him Kennedy doing like what was essentially like a poverty tour. And so like those ideas get kind of wrapped up or kind of tied together in this way that's really hard to pull them apart. And I don't mean to get too dorky on this, but pop quiz for everybody here. Does anybody know where the name Appalachia comes from?
I don't.
So it goes way, 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 way back. My understanding of it is okay. My whole point in asking that question is the name Appalachia comes from a misunderstanding, an imposed misunderstanding. And so the Appalachian tribe was actually from the Florida Panhandle. This goes back to Spanish colonial history and what became the United States. So the Appalachian people were in the Florida Panhandle and then were pushed northward by genocide, essentially. And what happened was a Spanish cartographer put Appalachia along the mountain range as he labeled it. So understanding defining the region from an outside perspective, from the top down, literally, is really what kind of marks the region historically. And I think what is important about thinking about Appalachia is that's where America starts to work out. It's like it's racial shit, as it was the frontier, right? And that's as America starts to push, like it gets. So Appalachia is really kind of front and center to how America thinks about itself. And so when dipshits like JD Vance come in claiming to understand like the real America, that's a really, really deep kind of cultural, political thing in the United States. So even though I've been kind of flippant about the film because it's bullshit, what he's doing is actually really, really fucked up and historically has been how the region has functioned politically and culturally. So I commend everybody on this podcast for at least paying attention to it because it is really, really important. And that's why this idea of like the white working class is almost always they're appealing to what they think of as Appalachia, because that's how Appalachia historically has been made to function.
And I think this speaks to how the story attracts someone like Ron Howard, right?
Yep.
This
Right.
sort of like,
Exactly.
mainstream milquetoast liberal director. And JD Vance in this, he reminds me of like a Flannery O'Connor villain or something.
Right. Yeah.
Like the guy that just kind of waltzes into town, but and like has the answers, right? Because someone like Ron Howard has no fucking idea what's going on, is looking at this region from the outside, right? Like the Spanish cartographer, and is like, someone explain this to me. But also I have the brain of a 4-year-old and I need it to be a fairy tale. Like, tell me a fairy tale. I can't deal with economic reality, right? And you see like you see in Hillbilly Elegy like the incoherences of him trying to make a fairy tale out of this. And he can't make it into a movie like Cinderella Man, which is like his like Great Depression boxing movie, right? Where it's like he just sort of like takes the Great Depression, personifies it in the body of a boxer, and then like the boxer wins, and that's like triumph, right? Because there is a historical narrative that allows him to fantasize about it. Whereas like Appalachia is still in this present that that JD Vance is at least like referring to, if inaccurately, right?
Yeah.
And Howard is like trying to fantasize about it while thinking what he's doing is like social realism. And so it just kind of becomes this like incoherent bag.
Yeah, even though aesthetically they're totally different, but I think like if you've ever seen like the films of Johnson, like President LBJ, in Appalachia, it's like that same kind of feeling that Ron Howard's, I think, trying to go for. Like, yeah, trying to understand this region for the purposes of like psychological like salve. Like I want to understand it. I'm not part of the problem. It's terrible that people live in poverty, and by watching this film, I understand it and I feel better now. I pity these people, therefore I feel better. Like, and it's the same kind of
Yep.
affect, I guess. Aesthetically very different, but the same affect.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's like Hollywood is very culpable in all of this, because like it's just perpetuating this monolithic narrative, but a narrative that allows us to just continue on without confronting the material conditions and without confronting the systemic issues that are the reality of people who live in Appalachia. And if you do that, well, then you have to talk about the Midwest and the Rust Belt, and you have to talk about the cities of America and all this. So this is very convenient for the like Hollywood and Ron Howard to do, because it lets us kind of kick this can down the road and just maintain these very shallow narratives that we have. They're like, they just do this every decade or so. Like they're gonna be like, let's make the movie Crash, and that's gonna just let us let's not confront any issues about what's happening systemically within America. So I think it makes perfect sense that Ron Howard would do this, and I think it underscores Hollywood's culpability in all of this. So they can't just divest themselves from JD Vance. Like they are, to me, JD Vance is just JD Vance, but Hollywood like thrust him essentially into existence. So to me, they are even perhaps more culpable than this, let's be clear, loser that has no real story to tell and just sort of sucks. So fuck him.
Yeah, Ron Howard
can
must
you
answer
let
for
us
his
be
crimes.
clear? He's a loser.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
But right, like the message of the film, right? It tells the East Coast liberal what they want to hear is you don't have to reallocate any resources.
Nope.
But you just have to not call someone a hillbilly to their face.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh.
That's
It's
the
offensive.
that's the thing.
We don't use that term.
Yeah. Also, the film is called Hillbilly Elegy. Here's your
I do
ticket.
I think they said redneck at the dinner,
Oh, was it
maybe.
redneck? Oh, my bad.
Okay, but also
My bad.
the history of like the redneck name is like incredibly
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't think it changes any of that. It's just yeah.
Yeah, I will point our 5 German listeners. I'll point you to a really good writer who I think actually does write from this perspective, but in a really interesting way. He calls himself a left neck. His name's Joe Bagent. I highly, highly recommend his work. He is like paying really, really careful attention to like class analysis, and yeah, how that like shakes out in the region. It's some fabulous works. One is called Deer Hunting with Jesus, and I really, really recommend it. It's really, really good.
Awesome.
Nice.
Definitely check that out. We'll try to add that to the show notes also.
Are we at that time where we plug things, or no? Are we still talking?
Well, I
Plug
think
away.
first.
Oh, sorry. First,
before plugs, we should pass out the Joe Pantolianos.
Yes.
So I just want to say, when you were talking about Joe Pantolianos, I didn't realize that he and Joe Pesci were different people. So I'm sorry to this man.
No, well, kind of along with that, I kind of laughed like I knew who he was. Is he the guy from The Matrix, like the little squirrely guy? Okay.
Yep.
The bald guy from The Matrix.
Got it.
So yeah, we'll give you guys some models for how this works. Ethan, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. 0. So I did this. This is a tough one to model for because I'm not going to give it any. I refuse to give it any. But here's what I'll do. I'll give it 0 Joe Pantolianos, but I will give it Joe Pantoliano from Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief, because it seems so clear to me that JD Vance sees himself as like almost ordained by God to save Appalachia. He is the main and only character in this story. And I get, yeah, okay, it's a memoir, but like every other character just serves to advance his own story. Like Mima only exists. Well, let's be clear, she exists because she gets to be that old hill country wisdom that is also saying exactly what JD Vance thinks about Appalachia. So that's why she exists. And I hope that her ghost haunts him until the end of time. His mom only exists to be like an annoying barrier because she's has an addiction issue. What? I mean, like his future wife only exists to like help him with his interview and to like do well, like to acclimate to the elite world. Everyone just exists to serve the advancement of JD Vance's story. So he, to me, sees himself almost as like the son of Zeus. And so that's why if I was going to name a Joe Pantoliano, it would be from Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. But again, I'm giving it 0 because I was texting you, Devin, as I was watching this, like, do I have to finish watching this film for the podcast? And to my credit, I did finish it. So that's what I awarded. What about you, Devin?
Yeah, so I know this isn't a deep cut, but the Joe Pantoliano that I'm going to for Hillbilly Elegy is him as Teddy in Memento. And the reason is that, spoiler alert for Memento, right? But like the reveal at the end of Memento is that Teddy is like this like cop or off-duty cop or former cop, I'm not sure, who's like taking Guy Pearce around and basically like tricking Guy Pearce into solving, quote unquote, his wife's murder over and over again, right? And I think this is kind of like somewhat metaphorical to what JD Vance is doing to like white Hollywood liberals, right? Like showing up out of nowhere being like, oh, there's this problem you've got to solve, the problem of Appalachia, right? And then selling them the solution, right? Giving them, and then the problem will just rear its head again and again. And of course, that backfires on Teddy when he ends up getting killed by Guy Pearce. Much as like JD Vance's own quest for power has made him just be the most like ridiculed man on the planet right now, and accused of potentially fucking couches and whatnot. So I'm gonna take Teddy from Memento, Joe Pantoliano, and I'm going to give 0 of those to Hillbilly Elegy.
Spot on.
I'll go. Unless Kenton, would you like to go?
After you.
So, I to be clear, this is 0 Joe Pantoliano. Well,
Joe's
it's
Pantoliano is what we say.
Pantoliano.
Joe's Pantoliano.
Okay.
It's like attorneys general.
Okay. So I would, if I were to give it a rating or like a movie, it would be from Cats and Dogs, the character Peek. If you are unfamiliar with the early 2000s film Cats and Dogs, it is where cats and dogs are fighting to take over the world. Cats are trying to take over the world, but the dogs are like the good guys. And that's just to say, we need justice for that poor dog who I was like full of anxiety in that movie that he was going to get run over by Amy Adams. So thank God he just like, they said that he got rehomed because I was quite nervous. But I thought that he would have like a bigger, as much emphasis as they put on that dog. I thought that we were going to have like a true villain origin story around that dog, but we didn't. Anyway, it is Joe Pantoliano's Peek. If you're not familiar with Peek, he was the like kind of like IT. He came up with a lot of like weapons to fight against the cats. And JD Vance loves math. I feel like that makes sense.
All right.
Man.
So I feel a lot of pressure because I didn't really know who Joe Pantoliano was. And as I was sitting here, the only 2 movies I could think of was 1, The Matrix, which I already mentioned, and 2, Bad Boys. And so I'm going to go ahead and go with the Joe Pantoliano from The Matrix because, 1, it's one of the only ones I could think of, but also I think it kind of fits because you meet Joe Pantoliano, and you're like, oh, he's kind of a cool guy, but it turns out he's a traitor and he'll sell you out to get what he wants. That's exactly what JD Vance does. So I'm going to go ahead and give the film, is it a 1 out of 10 scale? A 0 to 10 scale?
Oh, it's really whatever you want.
Whatever you want. I'm going to give it a half a Pantoliano. I'm going to give it a Pantaloon. Because I did think it was funny that the young JD Vance was like a bumbling like goon when he'll like back into a stack of postcards and she'll follow. Like something about that I thought was so stupid. I did like that. So thus the half a Pantoliano, or a Pantaloon as I like to call it.
Perfect.
Truly,
Man.
I was waiting for Amy Adams to say something similar to "You're like a bull in a china shop," because
Yeah.
that's what I heard all throughout my childhood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always
You're
knocking
like a
shit
neutral
over.
Terminator in a calculator store.
Yeah.
But thank you, Kenton and Catie, for joining us. Do you have anything you'd like to plug for the listeners?
Yes. Okay, so I have a couple of books. I know that Kenton talked a little bit about some books, but if you're looking for something, literally anything other than this, there is a great group on Instagram called Appalachians for Appalachians, and that's Appalachians for the number Appalachians. And they worked with Read Appalachia, which is a podcast, to come up with a list of both nonfiction and fiction books, either based in Appalachia or definitely they're all written by Appalachian people. But I have two books that I have read. If you want more, just like historical kind of like grasp onto certain areas of the region, there is the book To Live Here You Have to Fight, which is it's more of an academic read, but it's written by Jessica Wilkerson. It is about like women in the social justice movements in Appalachia. It talks a lot about women leadership in labor wars, and I think it's just like a phenomenal book to kind of think about like the intersectionality of like women and identities in Appalachia. I also just got this book, and I've started it, and but I'm very excited about it. It's called Uneven Ground: Appalachia Since 1945. Ronald D. Eller was the director of, I think, Appalachia Studies or the Appalachia Center at the University of Kentucky. So I'm very excited about this book, and I've already started reading it. But those are some things that if you want more, I don't know, have fun.
Yeah, please don't read Hillbilly Elegy. Like
Don't, if you're
whatever
gonna,
you do, and don't watch the film. Yeah.
I also read bell hooks.
Yeah, I cannot stress more how you should watch the film. Yeah. Yes, bell hooks. Read bell hooks instead of watching this film.
Yeah.
Kenton, do you have anything else you wanted to plug, or any of your own writing or anything?
Sure. So the journal Callaloo has a special issue called Black in Appalachia that's coming out soon. So check that out. I do have a piece in it called Spatial Passing, and it's about how the region is made to present itself as white. It's kind of what I was saying earlier. I don't know if it's okay to plug another podcast on your podcast, but there's one called Black in Appalachia that is fabulous. It's hosted by Nkechi Elamine and Angela Dennis, and they just look at the Black experience in Appalachia. I just mentioned Joe Bagent, Bageant, I think. But he's writing from like I said, like a white rural working class kind of perspective, very leftist. I feel like there might have been something else, but we'll just go with those.
Awesome.
Well, before we close out, Devin, I'd like to just share with everyone the final couple paragraphs from Hillbilly Elegy, if that's all right.
Please.
You ain't gonna read it anywhere else. In different versions, the antagonist changes form. It had been a Marine Corps drill instructor, a barking dog, a movie villain, and a mean teacher. Meemaw and Lindsay always make an appearance, and they always make it to the exit just ahead of me. Maybe this is a Terminator dream. I don't know. Without fail, the dream provokes pure terror. The first time I had it, I woke up and ran to Meemaw, who was up late watching TV. I explained the dream and begged her to never leave me. She promised that she wouldn't and stroked my hair until I fell asleep again. My subconscious had spared me for years when, out of nowhere, I had the dream again a few weeks after I graduated from law school. There was a crucial difference. The subject of the monster's ire wasn't me, but my dog, Casper, with whom I'd lost my temper earlier in the night. There was no Lindsay and no Mima, and I was the monster. Again, he was the monster. I chased my poor dog around the treehouse, hoping to catch him and throttle him. Why? Why would you do that, JD? But I felt Casper's terror, and I felt my shame at having lost my temper. I finally caught up to him, but I didn't wake up. Instead, Casper turned and looked at me with those sad, heart-piercing eyes that only dogs possess. So I didn't throttle him. I gave him a hug, and the last emotion I felt before waking was relief at having controlled my temper. I got out of bed. It's so bad. I got out of bed for a glass of cold water, and when I returned, Casper was staring at me, wondering what on earth his human was doing awake at such an odd hour. It was 2:00 in the morning, probably about the same time it was when I first woke up from the terrifying dream over 20 years earlier. There was no Mima to comfort me, but there were my 2 dogs on the floor, and there was the love of my life lying in bed. I guess his spirit, whatever. Tomorrow I would go to work, take the dogs to the park, buy groceries with Usha, and make a nice dinner. It was everything I ever wanted. So I patted Casper's head and went back to sleep. The end. Never read this book.
So
Isn't that so off-putting?
If you want JD Vance to have empathy, then you better be as cute as a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so like the final note of the book is like, I didn't beat up my dog.
Look, sorry, there's no way that man is not an abusive piece of shit. Like,
All signs.
there's no way. And I also really love too that the professor who told him to write about this story was Amy Chua, who also is an abusive piece of crap.
Oh, it's all bad, folks.
Real bad. But thank you for joining us, listeners. Sorry for subjecting you to that, but find us on Twitter and Instagram at YourTallPod. Find Ethan at Mathisippy. Find me at Stale Cooper. I think Kenton and Catie are mercifully not on Twitter.
Indeed.
And yeah, as always,
Keep circling that drain? Is that what it is?
yeah.
Nice.
And like part of the bit is also that I don't warn you I'm gonna say it, and you kind of forget it. You just don't.
It's a good sign. I love it.
Yeah.
Shortest Way Home. One Mayor's Challenge and a Model for America's Future. By Pete Buttigieg. Read by Pete Buttigieg. Chapter 1. The South Bend I Grew Up In. Dawn comes late, here along the western limited eastern time zone.
So far from the coast. Then a first sunrise of the year rise after 8 in the morning. Most January days are cloudy, making sun overhidden. And gradual process, let's say moment of daybreak. Then a cold shift away from the illuminated night, in which the clouds seal in and the snow cover reflects the sodium street lights. Between them into an orange glow, so bright you can read the paper outside at 4 in the morning. Hey, Mr. Mayor, South Bend, speak a speech for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no way I'll vote for you. Hey, Mr. Mayor, South Bend, speak a speech for me. And the cabinet positions will come following you. So the first sin of the morning actually makes things seem darker as the amber nightlight yields and the sky deepens into a kind of electric indigo. The species of light evolve around you from luminous ambience to discrete points of light. along the horizon.
general
General giving
giving
way
way
to
to
the
the
specific. Hey, Mr. Man.